Good morning and welcome to the show. You're probably wondering what all this stuff is. So am I. I have Marjorie Moore from the University of Florida. She's the director of the extension facility for Bay County. And part of your job is consumer sciences.
Yeah, family and consumer sciences.
Family consumer sciences, which includes things like canning, right?
Yes, we teach food preservation, which encompasses canning, freezing, dehydrating foods, as well as...
Who knew? Who knew the University of Florida did all this stuff? Now, you know, when I think about canning, I think, oh, go out to the internet and Google it up, and I'm sure there's a YouTube video that shows you how to do it. What makes the University of Florida, what's their interest in making sure people can can properly?
The University of Florida started out with tomato clubs. That's how our 4-H group started. The Family and Consumer Sciences, at that time they were known as home demonstration agents. They would go into the homes and work with families on how to can. And they started out with the tomatoes. And all of the information that we have is research-based. And in other words, it's through the USDA, USDA Department of Ag.
So it is the authoritative word on canning. I mean, science-based.
It is research-based.
So it's not like somebody showing you how and then you wind up getting sick. If you follow your instructions, this is the way to do it, right?
It is research-based, and we can only give out information that has been research-based, and that's what makes us unique. There are other companies out there, but we hope that people will utilize information from the Extension Office or USDA.
This is amazing. Now, do you have classes on that? People actually enroll for classes, or how does someone
Yes, we do
avail
have.
themselves of this knowledge?
We do have classes. I had 2 weeks ago. We had a water bath canning class, and
a water bath canning class.
Yes, and in a couple of weeks we'll have the pressure canning class, and there is a difference between the two. Water bath canning simply means you're using a container, as you can see here, and the other one is a pressure canner, whereas it reaches a temperature of 240 degrees at least in order to destroy any potential microorganisms.
Wow, that is something I certainly want to learn about, because when you look at that, like some of these things, and they just look delicious. Oh, by the way, you want to make sure it's safe. You can tell it's done in the home. We got to run off to the local weather. But after that, maybe you can kind of give me a little guided tour of some of this stuff and show me what I'd learn if I went to that class.
Sure. Okay.
We'll be right back after your local weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Marjorie Moore, who's the director of the extension facility for the University of Florida, and we're learning about safe canning. And I love this little device, but because obviously that's for picking this stuff up. But in the previous segment, you talked about the two different types of canning. One was pressure, and the other one was water bath?
Yes. One is a water bath canner, which is over here. It is a large container, and the temperature only gets to 212 degrees in this container. And the foods that are acceptable to can in this canner are acid foods, such as tomatoes, your fruits, or more applicable for this canner. For this canner over here is the pressure canner. Your low acid foods should be put in that canner because it goes up to at least 250 degrees. Starting out, most recipes around 240, 250. And basically you'll see a dial on this particular canner, and it shows you 10 psi's or 15 psi's. That means that it's 240 degrees or 250 degrees. And we use this in order to destroy any potential microorganisms such as botulism. We don't want to get that in such foods like your carrots, your green beans.
So depending on the type of food that you're trying to can is really going to dictate the method. I mean, it's just not one way to can food.
That's correct.
And it all depends on whether it's acid or non-acid foods.
Correct. And one of the things that we've experienced over the years is that people want to can their green beans in an open kettle and then put a lid on it and put it on the shelf, but it's not going to be safe.
So these green beans were prepared in something like this.
They were prepared in the pressure canner.
Yeah, I know my grandmother had one of these in her kitchen, and we might have one too. But But there is a certain way to do this, and you have to be so careful, particularly if you're preparing foods for your family.
You must be careful, especially, making sure you use the right method. Now, one of the things you want to make sure before you start is get all your equipment out.
You have a lot of things. I notice you have some basic tools of the trade, like a timer.
Yes.
Right? And of course, these tongs and all, because everyth's going to be extremely hot, I would imagine. So you're not going to be using your hands on anything.
Yes. And, we have some little gadgets, like this is bubble freer on one end, and this is a lid one on one end, and it picks up your lid. And one of the things we do recommend...
Your piping hot lid.
Yes, because this lid must stay hot while you prepare your food to go into the jars. And we do recommend 2-piece lids versus a 1-piece lid.
Now, Marjorie, we can't possibly go through this with all the time, with the little time that we have now. If people want to learn more about this, you have an event coming up, don't you?
Yes, we do. On July the 19th, which is a Saturday, we have a pressure canning class, and it starts at 10 o'clock at the Bay County Extension Office. Anyone interested, they can contact my office at 784-6105, and we'd be glad to register them for the class. It is free.
And so it's a free canning seminar or class, and you'll learn these techniques on how to, safely prepare food for your family and friends, I suppose, too. Marjorie Moore, it's so great to see you, and thank you very much for coming on the show. And if we want to learn more about it, we can always go to your website as well, right?
That is correct, and the website is bay.ifas and bay.ifas.ufl.edu.
Well, thanks again for coming on the show, and we'll be right back after your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hi, I'm David Lovett, and this is your Mad Hatter Minute. Today, we're going to be talking about oil leaks. There's nothing more annoying to move your car and see that big, black, grimy oil stain underneath your vehicle where it used to be parked. Oil leaks aren't only embarrassing, they're an indication of a problem and must be taken care of immediately. Gaskets and seals are what keep oil inside the motor. There are dozens of gaskets on the engine. There are gaskets on top of the motor, there are gaskets on bottom of the motor, there are gaskets on the left side, and there are gaskets on the right side, in the front, and the rear. Any one of these gaskets can fail, causing an engine oil leak. Oil leaks can evolve into a very serious repair. Should you not replenish the oil as you lose it, oil will not be available to lubricate the internal moving parts of the engine. Engine failure can occur. Some vehicles have gaskets that protect oil from getting on top of the spark plug. Should oil get on top of the spark plug as you're driving, a misfire condition will occur. Your car will spit and sputter and act like it's going to die while driving down the road. You'll think it's a very serious repair, but it's not. Best advice is to get it into a repair facility and have them check it. Replace the valve cover gasket and the valve cover grommets. The grommets are what separate the engine oil from the spark plugs. Clean the spark plugs and you should be good as new. Best advice, if you have an oil leak, take it to your trusted auto repair facility. Have them identify the oil leak and fix the problem correctly. I am David Lovett, and that has been your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hey folks, this is Joshua Brown with Mad Hatter on 23rd Street. Is your check engine light on? If it is, text MADHAT28, that's MADHAT28, to 24247, and we'll check it for free.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Gita Carre, our local allergist, and she's going to give us a pulmonary function tip of the week. Let's call it
Pulmonary function tip of the week.
It just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
Well, let's talk for a couple of minutes about kids.
Let's do that. How do you know if your kids have some sort of disorder?
Well, let's talk for a minute about kids who get sick all the time.
Okay.
And when should you worry?
Well, a lot of mothers worry, no matter what.
Right.
When should we worry about, say, asthma?
So, kids get sick all the time because that's what kids do. Because when they're born, their immune systems are naive. And in that first couple of years of exposure, the average number of infections is 13 per year.
Wow.
And if each infection lasts a couple of weeks, if you feel like your child is sick half the time, it's because they are sick half the time.
But that's what little kids do, or infants do.
Absolutely. But if you feel that your child is getting sick more frequently, or the severity of their illness is greater than than would be expected, talk it over with your primary care provider. Should I be worried? Is this more than what you usually see with these children? Mm-hmm. Is it causing problems with their growth and development? Is it limiting the development of their speech because it's causing problems with their hearing? Do they need to see an ENT specialist? Do they need to see an allergist? Is there a window of opportunity to intervene while their speech is developing? Those are things to think about.
Does, say asthma, for instance,
Right.
Does it usually present itself in childhood, and if so, when?
There's a lot. We define it, we call it early wheezing. Many children will wheeze prior to the age of 3. And having called it early wheezing, not all children wheeze. Some of them will only cough. They will only cough. They'll have this chronic cough, which is often worse at night. And it is airway spasm, bronchospasm. The good news is that 2 out of 3 children who wheeze or have chronic cough such as that prior to the age of 3 will outgrow it. After the age of 3. 1/3 won't. 1/3 will go on to have chronic asthma. So there's good news and bad news.
Yeah, and what exactly is asthma?
It's chronic airway inflammation, which leads to airway constriction, which is reversible, though not always completely reversible.
And the signs of that would be
Coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, chest tightness.
labored breathing.
Correct.
Perhaps you see them heaving to
Correct.
suck in air, and that would be an early warning sign.
Yes.
In children of all ages, I suppose.
Absolutely. Infants, toddlers, older children, adults, the elderly.
So don't panic,
No,
but get in and see your doctor.
absolutely.
That is such
And
a
ask
sound-
questions.
And ask questions. Yeah,
Right.
that's good. And what's the difference between, say, like bronchitis and asthma? Those are almost
Oh, that's a
interchangeable
big question.
in my world, but
And they can be interchangeable. Asthma is a type of bronchitis, actually, technically, histologically, looking at what an asthmatic lung looks like under the microscope. It is a type of bronchitis. It is an eosinophilic bronchitis, but it is an inflammatory bronchitis. There are a lot of other differences between, say, asthma or chronic bronchitis, and they're managed differently. There are some similarities, there are some differences.
well, say my child is wheezing or having difficulty breathing. I bring him to the doc, and they go, well, got asthma, and then whatever medications or treatments you do. That child can outgrow this, right? You said
Oh,
it's
sure.
reversible, and they could actually, I guess, be cured. Is that a fair statement?
Cure is a difficult word.
Yeah.
Cure is a word that we try to be very careful about because cure implies that you no longer have the disease and no longer need to think about the disease.
Yeah.
So we do avoid that word except for in very special circumstances.
But you can reverse the symptoms.
Absolutely.
And that's the important part. So I guess if there's any takeaway from our little conversation here
Right.
is if your child's having trouble breathing or presents wheezing or any of those things, go see your doc.
Absolutely.
And that is your pulmonary health tip of the week. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Young mothers, listen up. I have a registered nurse here by the name of Carol Burrow, who is a lactation consultant.
Yes.
And thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, for a guy talking about, breastfeeding, it's a little uncomfortable, but these are things that young moms really need to know, and
Yeah.
probably wouldn't hurt us dads to learn a little bit about
No,
it
because
too.
if the dads are supportive of this, mothers are going to do so much better. A lot of times that makes or breaks the success of the breastfeeding. If there's a supportive partner saying, "Yeah, keep it up,"
But do we really? Isn't this something that just occurs naturally, or is there a right and a wrong way to breastfeed? Or
I liken it to learning to ride a bike. It takes a little practice and a little balance, or like learning to dance. You have to learn the steps and fall into the rhythm, And once you're in the rhythm, then things start to move along.
And
But it is a learned activity.
And yeah, I guess it would, because in days of yore, perhaps it was a mom or a grandmother who would show the young mother how to properly do that. And now with our highly mobile society, we may not have that available.
We lose contact with our families, and so that's how people who do what I do have come to be.
Why is breastfeeding so important?
It's very important for the baby. Babies really are hardwired to nurse. It's a way of bonding and attaching to the mother and to the family. It also imparts immunities that the baby doesn't have otherwise. Babies are born very defenseless. Their immune system isn't activated yet, so they borrow mom's, and they use her immune system, which is an adult immune system. Mother actually passes on antibodies through her breast milk, which give disease protection. New exposures are taken care of in the same way. If the mother's exposed to germs, her immune system reacts and she passes those things along to the baby. So an infant
can actually acquire the mother's immunity through breast milk, I would imagine. And I guess there are some psychological benefits to that as well, not just for the mom, but certainly for the baby.
For the mom and for the baby. You can look at a breastfeeding couple, mother and baby, and you can see the response on mother's face. You know, she's just kind of peaceful and relaxed, and the baby's nursing away, and baby's happy, and after the feeding the baby is restored and satisfied and kind of looks around and says, well, now I'm ready for action.
Yeah, they're always ready for action, those kids, let me tell you. And if you're expecting your first kid, you get your sleep now. Because And for us dads, breastfeeding is actually a benefit, because that way you don't have to get up in the middle of the night to feed the baby. The wife can do that. Unless, of course, she pumps, and that's a whole other that's a whole other topic. We've got to run off to a break, but maybe on the other side of that, maybe you can tell us some of the do's and don'ts of breastfeeding.
Sure.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with registered nurse Carol Burrow. She's a lactation consultant, and we're talking about breastfeeding. And Carol, you gave me some fun facts here. Really kind of, not fun, but kind of disturbing. It says the World Health Organization estimates that 1.5 million babies die every year because they were not breastfed.
Because they were not. And that's not just in third world nations. Our United States isn't doing a whole lot better than nations where they don't have the money to spend on health care.
But a lot of moms are busy, and they're working moms, and you know, maybe they don't have the time to actually do that physical nursing thing. Is pumping a good?
Pumping is okay, but and for a working mom, it's a necessity. I'll tell you though, the long-term mothers that I work with, most of them are working mothers. So they are the most dedicated. They're the most organized.
Yeah,
because they have to be for their jobs.
Now, what are some of the things you would teach in class? Like we talked about do's and don'ts. I mean, is there really a wrong way to breastfeed a baby? And what should young mothers or first-time mothers expect?
The key to really getting off to a good start with breastfeeding and maintaining is a really good latch, a deep latch. And I liken it to eating a Big Mac, a nice big fat sandwich where you throw your head back and you open your mouth wide and the tongue is down and you get a nice deep bite of the sandwich. It's the same thing when you breastfeed.
I'm not laughing, Carol Burrow.
Okay.
I'm not even smirking.
Good, thank you.
But I really am. But you know, this is girl talk, and I'm a guy. And it's a little uncomfortable for guys to hear that type of thing. But young moms need to know this stuff.
Yes.
They need to know what to expect. Like, oh my God, is there something wrong with my baby? He's trying to eat me. I mean,
But when it is a good latch, it's comfortable. You don't feel like you're being injured in any way. And a dad can look at the latch and say, well, maybe you need a pillow underneath your elbow, or do a little bit of this and that, and I think it will be more comfortable for you. And that can be a wonderful addition. Sometimes just adding a pillow here and there, and the observer that is the one who's going to see this more than the mom who's just trying to make it happen.
That'd be a great bonding experience for the family, I would imagine.
It is. It really strengthens the family bond.
How do you know when a baby's done?
They usually let go.
That's it. They're just full, and that's I'm good to go now.
There's no more. I'm either full or there's no more on this side, and then you offer the other side.
Now, what about young moms? Do they need to? I would imagine they need to watch what they eat and drink.
Not really.
Just live your normal life.
Pretty much.
Well, certainly no alcohol, I would imagine. But,
Right. Well, you can have it in moderation if you plan for it. And now there are test strips for mothers to buy at the drugstore to test their milk to see if
if it's 80 proof or not. Yeah. Okay.
true.
Well, Carol, we're so out of time, and this is such an interesting topic. And
I do want to throw in
Yeah.
that World Breastfeeding Week is coming up. It's the 1st to the 7th of August. And at the health department, we're going to have a latch-in. And that's going to be across the nation. We are going to have a latch-in.
How do we learn about it?
Watch the newspapers. It's going to be from 9:30 to 12 at the health department. We're going to bring people in, get them organized and set up, and all at the same time across the nation, we're going to have a latch-in.
All right.
Or latch on.
Latch on, latch in, whatever. We're going to have to let that be the last word. But thank you so much for the work you do.
Thank you.
And thanks for getting us smart on
Breastfeeding.
And we'll see you next time.